Welcome all to the meeting of Seaford Town Council's Finance and General Purposes Committee, 19th December 2023. We'll take us straight on to item 1, which is apologies for absence.
We haven't heard any apologies, Chair, thank you.
Thanks very much. So on to item number 2, which is disclosure of interests, to deal with any disclosures by members of interests. If anybody has anything to disclose. No? Thank you everyone. So on to item number 3, which is public participation. As we can see, there are no members of the public here tonight. So that takes us through to item number 4 on the agenda, which is receipts, payments and bank reconciliation reports for August, September, October and November 2023, which is to consider the report and note the contents. Just to add in, I have looked through August, September and October, the accounts. I haven't, November I'm currently looking through. Does anybody wish to ask any questions or any comments? Councillor Warren?
We know the report.
Thank you, Councillor.
I'll
Second
second that.
All in favour?
Is everyone, Chair, thank you.
Thanks very much. On to item number 5, which is the finance report to the 30th of November 2023. We're asked to note the contents of the report. Do you have any comments on this? Or?
This report sort of basically gives you the income and expenditure from April to November. And I've got the variance report explaining some of these significant variances, but welcome any questions if there is any.
Councillor Buchanan.
Yes. My acronyms aren't up to speed here. On page 15, 6,000 says plus transfer from EMR.
Page 15.
Page 15, item 6,000. It just says plus transfer from EMR.
Oh, sorry.
Just wondering what
That's an earmarked reserve.
earmarked reserve.
Yeah. So that would have been paid out of an earmarked reserve.
Who earmarks them?
We have this one, the one that you're talking about, there's an earmarked reserve for water refill maintenance. So we have a set of earmarked reserves that have money in for this, like for maintenance or different items.
So it's a contingency kind of thing, is it? Or?
Yeah, earmarked reserves have already been agreed by council, so we have a set of earmarked reserves, all for various things. So this one is especially for the water refill maintenance. So any maintenance will then come out from this earmarked reserve. And we also get sponsorships for some of these water refill stations. So any sponsorship money that we receive will go into that earmarked reserve, which is then that's how we sort of take the maintenance money from there as well. But yeah.
Okay.
And as Lucy's explained really, so Councillor Buchanan, when you get to the budget you'll see this. Every year we confirm the earmarked reserves. So councils actually earmark the reserves, but that's agreed when they set the budget each January, so you'll see the list of earmarked reserves when you set the budget.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Warren.
It's just a query. I'm just wondering where the maintenance for the defibrillators is, what it comes under, because I can't quite see it listed unless it comes under something else.
It does come under the vehicles and equipment maintenance.
I did
So into the areas of where they are.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Councillor
One
Christo.
quick clarification, if I may, because I think I was thinking about this in relation to community services the other week. The bins which we own and have along the seafront, do they have their own item in the budget, or are they taken in group with
In
others?
group with others, yeah.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Can I ask for a proposer to note the content of the report? Councillor Borman and a seconder, Councillor Sturton. And all in favour?
Everyone, Chair, thank you.
Very much. On to item number 6, which is the finance and general purposes Committee draft budget for 2024 to 2025. We're asked to consider the report, which is in front of you. Would you like to make any comments introducing the budget?
For accounts, what I'd briefly say, Chair, is for councillors who've already been to other committee meetings will understand how these reports are working or how they've been done. And what Lucy and Andy have done for clarity, and it's explained in section 2.2 of the report, is that each of the budget reports, each of the committees takes the form of a variance report compared to last year's budget. So you see last year's budget and the variances to it. And then significant items are then explained within the body of the report to give councillors clarity on what it is that's been presented in front of them. I'd like to thank Andy and Lucy for the comprehensive job they've done in preparing this. And so happy to hand to you, Chair, for any questions.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Good luck. Did you have anything to add as well, Lucy?
No, that's
Thank you. So open the floor to questions or comments. Councillor Walraven.
Yeah, I've already chatted to Lucy on this. On the grants, it seems to be quite a big jump from what we've had this year, and I would have thought probably 35,000. I mean, I don't know how we, you know, like, but 38 at the moment, isn't it?
33, I think.
38.
Sorry?
38 with the
With the 5,000,
yeah. Yeah.
So it jumps up £8,000. Can I just clarify on that? Having been part of that process, my memory doesn't quite remember. That's what we will have in the budget, but I mean this year we were very oversubscribed, I think for the first time.
Not the first
Well,
time.
not the first time,
Every
but,
year.
but it was quite a heavy oversubscription in terms of interest and applications. If, for example, we have a year where there isn't so much interest, we don't have to spend the whole budget of it, so it's not like we have to percentage it out. So, no,
Sorry, Chair, Emma just explained that I put in that figure of 33 for the, so we've got the 5 for CAB and then 33 for the rest, because although I knew that you wanted to increase it, but I didn't know a figure, so I put that figure in, and then you sort of discussed tonight whether you want to increase or decrease. So that figure of 33 was just because I wasn't sure what I actually wanted.
Yeah.
So it's up to you as councillors to decide what budget you would like. But like you say, you don't have to spend that money. You can put the budget in 33, but it doesn't have to be spent.
Councillor Bourne.
Yeah, I do agree with Councillor Walraven of 38, I think is a high percentage to increase it to, so 35, which is 5 for citizens' advice, that leaves 30,000 instead of the 25,000 in the pot for the grants. I think that is more reasonable.
Thanks very much. Councillor Buchanan.
Yes, just looking at under members training. This is members being officers and councillors.
So for members is just the councillors. We've got
Okay.
staff training in a different cost centre.
Okay. We ran out of money recently because I had to pay for my own training on a climate change issue. It's okay, but I'm just thinking whether or not the money that's allocated is actually going to. Can you take this from what did we call it before? Contingency or something, if there's additional training needed? So it's 4014.
What page is that on, sorry?
It's on page 34.
So you were told there was not enough money in the budget?
I think so. Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that. We were basing the new figure on actual to date. So we weren't aware that there was an overspend.
Well, it wasn't. Yeah, look, I'm just making a thought. I mean, the fact that I paid for it, I'm not saying it for that. I'm just saying that you ran out of money.
That's not something that we was aware of.
Is this something the council organised?
It was
It was
something
it was an
that we asked,
opportunity then.
we asked, it was a training session over 3 separate evenings. And I think it was 50 or 70 quid or something like that for those 3 sessions. And we were trying to get it arranged for the climate change subcommittee people. But apparently there wasn't enough funds to cover it. I think I was the only one that participated in this thing in the end.
Is it something separate to what the council has offered? Because they've offered different climate change training programmes as well.
It was,
So if it's something that is different but the same as what's already been offered.
Well, it was actually, it was where a whole bunch of other councils from all over the country were coming together, and so it was a council thing in that sense. It wasn't it was something that I think Christina had found, or somebody had found it, and suggested to the officers that climate change subcommittee members would be good for them.
There is some training coming out though.
Well, that's
Yeah,
fine,
yeah.
but there's a whole lot of
Can
different
I
training that
clarify,
happens with these
I
things.
think this was something that had come through to the council because one of the officers had sent it through on an email.
Oh, really? Okay. So
It was,
it originated from the.
I think it must have come in from, one of the council's sort of lists of wherever the information comes from. Because it wasn't something that I'd, as the chair of climate change, actively discussed with anybody, but it just kind of came in as an opportunity. And I think at that time, because it's been quite a long road getting the climate literacy training organised for January locally through in person, and this is an online thing. So it just kind of came through at the beginning of when we were starting to organise that. And there was a cost attached to it, whereas I knew that the climate literacy training was, I had a hunch that it was going to be free, and also it was in person and tailored to what we want. So I think it was really good that you were able to go on that, and thank you very much for signing up and seeing what's going on. But I think as a sort of, it wasn't a council saying this is officially what we're doing, it was just kind of another opportunity that came in. So yeah, I mean, there's perhaps a thing about budget there, because I must admit I wasn't up to speed with what the training budgets were at that time, and I didn't really need to know because I knew that there wouldn't be a cost for the one that I was doing. So
I suspect the upshot of this discussion is whether or not, another couple of 300 quid a year or something might be, I don't know. And you never know from one year to the next what training requirements may or may not be.
Well, at the moment, we are underspent. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll take that away and look into that, Councillor. I wasn't aware of any of that until you said it tonight, so nobody else prepare anything for that, but we'll take it away and look into that for you. So, Chair, so far we might pull this together as a motion in a minute in terms of amendments, but we'll wait till we've got all the amendments and then we'll do them as a single list. So far we've got training 30 from 33 to 30, grants from 33 to 30, and then councillor training, members training, councillor training back to 2,000 rather than 1,600. I think those are the two we've got so far. We'll see how we go with the rest of the discussion.
Okay, we'll go with Councillor Bristow then.
back to the grants. When we had the grants meetings, we were discussing about the potential for, I think it was potentially 2 organisations or one plus possibly another, the council taking maintenance more in-house, because I think that had been done during the pandemic, and the other organisation having a service contract, I believe, not CAB. And I'm just wondering, do we know where that's got to, and might that affect the budget and budget need for next year?
It won't affect the figures. It may be that if the organisation we're talking about decide that they want to enter into an SLA with the council, and we're exploring that via their OBR at the moment, which we don't know the answer yet. Then all that would happen is that some of that £30,000 will be allocated towards that SLA, and so we'll actually change the budget.
And would that then in subsequent years still come out of that budget, or would that then migrate to its own recurring budget to be suited?
Yeah, we probably do with them what we do for the CAB, but in terms of the other separate budget, the pool of money we're talking about is 35,000, 30,000 plus 5,000. We may use some of that 30 for an SLA for this organisation.
Okay.
I think that's where the discussion ended up, we're not sure yet.
Thanks. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Warren?
Yeah, the other thing was, you got 10,000 for elections, is that enough to cover elections if we have to? Hopefully we won't, but there have been previous years where there's been a number of by-elections during the course of the year. And I'm not sure how much it costs now these days, but would 10,000 be enough to cover? Say if you had two by-elections.
I think that at the moment the way this is working is that the 4-year cost is paid for over the 4-year life of the council, so in effect you're making a contingency each year for a quarter of the cost of the 4-year election. So that's really what that money is for. And at the moment, so the historical aim has been that if there is a by-election during the year, that's just an additional expenditure that's borne by the council. We're not really making any contingencies for by-elections at the moment. Maybe we're optimist, council, maybe, I don't know.
I know, but it's just past experience
in terms of
whether
whether we need to make
to.
any further contingencies for by-elections as well as the general election cost, which I don't know what you think.
Well, I could say that we have got some in an earmark reserve, EMR, so if that was the case, we could take it from there, and then what we would do is the following year, we would up the budget to make up for what we've had to spend this year. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hopefully it won't happen.
No.
Yeah, that's just that, so we've got enough to spend for that, and we'll adjust his contingency for the following 3 years, if there's a by-election.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you. Councillor Sturton?
Cost centre 4,000, salaries and wages. Is that all council employees, including people everywhere?
It does include the view of the golf course.
Okay.
So all the admin, all the office staff.
Right. So that one will stay the same. There's not any expectation that one will change.
No.
That's fine. Thanks.
Any further comments or questions? Or should we move to the motion amendment?
The motion says to comment upon the draft, so I'm happy to, if the councillors are happy, I'm happy to interpret that motion as us making those 2 changes in this budget. Does that make sense? Yeah, we're acting the comments during the motion. So the comments you made are is that grants becomes 30,000 apart from CAB, 35,000 overall, and that members' training going back to £2,000. So we'll make those 2 changes to the budget before it goes to the full council. Okay, Chair, thank you.
If we can we say, our councillors happy to, with both of those? Just as a general.
Propose that?
Yeah, if we could propose in seconds.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. All in favour?
Thanks
Thank you
everyone,
very
Chair,
much.
thank you.
Good to have some clarity. Thanks. And then let's move on to item number 7. 7, see the Town Council's draft budget report, 24 to 25. To consider the report, would you like to introduce the item, Town Clerk?
Yeah, thank you. So again, hopefully reasonably clear, and again very comprehensive from the finance team, and want to thank them for that. It's very helpful in this report. It explains what a precept is, so that's always good to know what we're actually voting for. How Band D works, because Band D gets talked about a lot, and then some very helpful, some what I call peace of mind data for you in section 3 of the report, showing Seaford's council precept compared to other town councils in this part of the world, and how how much towards the bottom of that table we are in terms of our own Band D precept level. And then as section 4 of the report explains, this the overall town council budget is simply a composite of the committee budgets that have been through the committees, including the F&GP tonight. So again, Chair, we will obviously the figures for this section are now very, very slightly changed by the discussion we've just had under item 6. So we're going to take those changes as read, if that makes sense, in terms of the motion here for item 7, because you've already agreed those changes. But basically, yes, so this shows you how all the individual committee budgets add up to make a total town council budget. The page 41 is the summary budget, which also therefore explains how the Band D council tax figure for the council is calculated. And we'll show all of our committees, income and expenditure, and then as we've talked about already, the list of earmarked reserves and the transfers to and from for this budget. that are going on. And if you take the income for each committee, the expenditure for each committee, and then your transfers to and from your earmark reserves, you get your total budget for the organisation, and then you can see what's required in terms of precept, and therefore you can also see from that what the band D figure is. And at the bottom of page 41, your comparator is that the budget that's currently in front of you is a 1.92% increase on last year's band D figure, and that's actually £2.13 in total in terms of an increase. And as the report says in section 5 of the report, it explains that 1.9% is significantly below the current rate of inflation.
Yeah, cool.
I hope that gives enough information. Happy to take comments and questions from the floor through you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Bourne?
Yeah, can I just ask, the council tax base, have we had that updated with what the figures are going to be? Or are we still waiting for accurate figures?
No, the figure in the report is the actual figure.
I know some years they're slow.
And what's the council tax base? Just in case anyone doesn't know what that is.
What, the figure? The actual figure?
Well, what does it mean in terms of us? Why does it matter? Sorry, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. But it's basically a centralised figure from Lewis District.
It's how many properties
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have that we will
Yeah.
claim council tax
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, so it's the average it bases, it's band D is the average.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously that varies very slightly every year. So basically what's going on is that what that council woman's asked the question, I think, is that obviously every year we set our budget saying, okay, last year this is the figure we used. Next year we'll need this much, so that's this figure. But actually the way that it's calculated changes very slightly every year because the calculation comes from the number of council taxable properties in your parish. And obviously, so Lewis District calculate that number every year, and it's always very slightly different from the year before. Obviously, it's more properties, then you need a bit less per property, and if it's fewer properties, you need a bit more per property. And that's what's happened when we have that information, so we know that.
I presume we've taken into account, obviously we've got quite a large chunk of new housing coming online at the Newlands development, reminding what it's now called. Quite a few of them are inhabited and quite a few aren't, and I'm just wondering if that's modelled into this in any way, because that would presumably change perhaps quite a bit the amount of council tax that comes in the next few years, because I'm also looking forward to, we've got some projections here up to 28, 29, which is really useful. And if we go back a year, last year, we had a hold, and I think from people who've been here longer than me will know, we've had a hold for quite a while, and we've got a modest increase, and then all of a sudden we're projecting quite a jump of 6%, 7% in 26, 27, 28, and I'm just wondering, why are we doing it in that way? What's the rationale behind having a small amount and then quite a step up, rather than trying to smooth that out? And are there any other factors coming in? Online, if you see what I mean.
Previous to the last year's, they were 4%, 7%, 12%.
Oh, we did have that,
So
Right,
that,
okay,
it
so it's
wasn't
not
it
quite
wasn't steady.
so
We
simple.
had huge ones
yeah.
because you had a budget to
Yeah.
fill. So they can change from year
Yeah,
on
yeah,
year, and the
yeah.
projections can change.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's more to do with the RFO looking at how future expenditure might work, and there'll be certain items of, there might be, so basically they will have identified that somewhere in those future years there's some more expenditure we're likely to have to bear
Yeah.
in relation to maybe our assets, for example, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that's why you get the 6% going up from 2% in 2 years' time. That's simply about a timing of the commitments that the council will have to bear, and therefore we can't really change that in terms of, well, the only way to change that would be to say we'll do a contingency against that now and do more this year to lower that. But at this stage we wouldn't anticipate that being necessary because it's still not 6% even with that change. But obviously over the 2-year period, there's plenty of time for the RFO and the councillors to see what they want to do about that when we get there.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. That's really interesting to see how it's driven and the
Yeah,
considerations
exactly.
of that later process. Thank you.
the new estate's called Seaford Grange.
I
And,
Well done, Freddie. You're on the pulse, that's good.
Yeah.
It's going to be Newlands.
the tax base is steady, isn't it, in there? So that percentage increase is presuming the tax base won't increase, which it may well do, which would lower the percentage requirement
Well, help us
increase.
if that's okay.
Councillor Buchanan and then Councillor.
Yes. So just a quick clarification, page 39, 3.3. It says, for further comparative information, the average band D equivalent across the whole of Lewis, which presumably is this is generally the list on the table, is that right?
No, the table is showing you the towns in this part of East Sussex, and the second column is the first name is the name of the town council, and the second column is the district in which they reside, or they are geographically placed. And as you'll see from the table, Councillor Buchanan, some are in Lewis, some are in Wealdon, some are in Rother. So really it's the three, if you like, rural districts of East Sussex, and these are the town councils within them, and how, because they're the most closest thing to what we are, really, which is, you know, a town council within the districts of Lewis, Wealdon or Rother within the county of East Sussex. So the district shows you whereabouts they are, and you'll see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, there are 5 in Lewis, and we're 4th out of the 5 in terms of our band D.
That's okay, because I just imagine that average looked a bit low compared to the numbers in the
Yeah.
table.
Yeah. But that's all the parishes, all the towns and parishes in the Lewis district average is 128.87, which so we're also below that figure as well, at 111.
And we've always been very proud of being one of the lowest in the district, haven't we?
Absolutely.
Councillor Buchanan.
Just another thought then. If Seaford has a band D council tax rate of £111 and Lewis has 219, do Lewis provide twice the services?
You might have to ask them, I don't know.
That's obviously not the only.
Just a thought.
There's Lewis Town Council owns a number of historical assets which require quite a bit of maintenance, as well as they have some services they provide, like bus services into town, things like that. So it's a different need, and they have a slightly different approach.
We have a high income from properties we own rather than an expense. We have an income from what we
Okay,
own.
no, that's a fair
Yeah,
thought,
that's a good one,
given
that's
the tax base thing, yes.
And Councillor Bowman, you had your hand raised earlier.
Yeah, so on quite a lot of these there's VAT adjustments, and they all say nothing. But haven't we been able to maybe over the last few years have a sort of an average of what the VAT might be to include that in these figures?
I think previously the VAT was from a claim, so we had to have those account codes in there for when we had the income in. And because I think some of that was last year, that's why those codes are still in there. We don't know if we are going to be getting any more voucher. We might be, but it's not. I don't think we should be actually estimating what we'll be getting refunded from the VAT, if anything. But that's why those codes are there, because we've previously had income back from them, and we've had to put them in a code, so that's why they're sitting there. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Warwick.
No, I was all right. Councillor Baldwin already said what I was going to say.
Any further comments or questions, or we should proceed to no comments? So we are asked to comment upon the draft Town Council budget and precept requirement for 24 and agree a recommendation to full council. We would be proposing to recommend the report as it is in our agenda tonight. So can I have a proposer? Councillor Sturton, and a seconder, Councillor Walraven. All in favour?
That's everyone, Chair, thank you very much.
Thanks very much. So that was item number 7. Item number 8 is exclusion of the press and public. As Chair, I will move that in accordance with the Public Bodies Commissions to Meetings Act 1960, the press and public be excluded from the meeting during the discussion on the next item of business for the reasons as set out below. Proper officer considers that discussion of the following item is likely to disclose exempt information as defined in Local Government Act 1960.